Today on the program, we have Emily Barsky. Emily is the Global Sales Strategy and Operations Lead at Codat, a business that enables fintech and financial institutions to build connected products for their customers via their universal API. Emily is a passionate sales operations leader who has a wealth of knowledge in CRM systems, creating and implementing new processes and sales strategy. Welcome, Emily. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no worries. You've obviously been on the program before and talked with Dave about all the things that you can do to get together and organize your territory planning. Today, we want to learn a little bit more about you. So how did you get into sales operations?
I love it. That's a great question. So I landed in sales operations because I was a failed AE. I was a very bad salesperson. I had my lead list and I had my CRM and I was all ready to go. And I'd sit on the phone and be like, don't pick up, don't pick up, don't pick up. I don't want to talk to people. And what I realized through that process was I really liked working in the spreadsheets, putting together proposals and quotes and doing the numbers side of sales and saying, okay, if I make 20 calls today, 3 people will pick up and I'll get 1 meeting. And so through that, I discovered that sales operations was really my calling and pivoted quickly. And I've been here ever since.
Nice. I think that is like the background for a lot of folks who have started in sales operations, given that it's really been an emerging area in the last, I would say, 10 years. Having that firsthand experience is critical to be able to empathize with your team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can understand the pain points that they're having and the adrenaline you get from closing a deal and all of the steps in between, and being able to understand that and build processes and systems to make their jobs easier is incredibly rewarding.
Awesome. So one of the things that within sales and sales operations, it's predominantly been a male-dominated field. So what has been your experience as a female leader in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely male dominated. I always say I'm chasing my unicorn, my female CRO. I have yet to work for one, but that is my dream. But the experience has definitely been, it's predominantly male. And it is something where you just have to be comfortable asking to join meetings and butt your way into conversations and say, I have a voice here too. And I think once you do that and you do start contributing, people will naturally pull you in, but it does take a little bit of being uncomfortable and asking, do I need to be in this? Or not even asking, saying, I should be in this. And that can get you a seat at the table, which is sometimes the hardest part.
Awesome. Definitely, like having that opportunity to share your experience and your point of view on how to do things is, especially in operations, you're influencing so many different areas. It's really important to have that seat at the table.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to show your vulnerability, especially to other women in the business. And when you are uncertain, or if you are, a little insecure or unsure of yourself, sharing that allows other people to realize they're not the only person that feels like that. Where we all suffer from imposter syndrome for one degree or another. And I think it's really important to just be vulnerable and admit that maybe there are some things you don't know. But I also think in those situations, you will realize you know so much more than you do.
And when you've kind of been going through your career, has there been any other leaders that have kind of inspired you, or is there any person that you follow maybe on LinkedIn or a podcast that's kind of inspired the way that you like to approach things?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first boss in sales operations was Jessie Wheeler, and she was a total rock star. I believe she's at Own Backup now, but she did a really, really good job of empowering people to grow within their career. I think one of the most important things to grow is to work outside of your job description and don't just be limited by the things that people tell you to do. Search for the other problems, search for solutions, find ways to fix things. And Jessie was such a great role model in that sense. And she taught me how to do that. And so I owe her endlessly for that. I'd say another leader that's been really impactful on my career is David Solomon. He was my CRO when I was an intern, my company before this, and he was just really passionate about including me in conversations and giving me a voice and up-leveling my strategic capabilities. And so having a boss and someone that will take the time to invest in you and include you in those conversations and to teach you things that you don't know has been really impactful for me.
Awesome. And you mentioned that within your team at Codat, you went from being the solo person in sales strategy and sales operations to now having 3 folks on your team. How do you think, your journey and your growth has impacted the way that you lead your team and, your function?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things that's really been important for me to learn is accepting feedback. I think everyone assumes that giving feedback is really hard, but it's actually accepting feedback that can be a lot harder. And so I read a book, it's very popular, Radical Candor. And I read that to be able to give people feedback. And what I took away from it actually was how to accept feedback. And I think there's a lot of important things that you need to do to make people feel comfortable, realize that it's not personal. And generally, when you're giving someone feedback, it's because you're investing the time in them to want them to improve. And so I think just framing it in that way can really be so beneficial. And then also the other thing is just having empathy. Like you said, as a former sales professional, I have empathy for salespeople, but I also have empathy at a human level and know that we all go through different things. Some people might have bad days every once in a while. You might just need a camera off day, and understanding that we have good days, we have bad days, and we can't expect everyone to be working at 100% all of the time. If you do, you're going to burn out.
Yeah, I think definitely as we are all on video all the time now, it's an opportunity to really take a pause. And sometimes there's days where you have to kind of just turn off a little.
Yeah, I think the important lessons I've learned as a leader is saying no. I think you always, as you're coming up in your career, you say yes, you want to accept more projects and take on more things and get more responsibility. And it can be to your detriment at a certain point. And so saying no to things, or saying not right now, prioritizing things is incredibly important for your productivity, but also for your mental health.
And saying no, I think, is one of the things that's often been hard, not only for people going up in their careers, but also I think for operations. You touch so many different areas, so you see the opportunity to positively influence an area. How do you take a no and make it be an optimistic no? Or like, how do you have a no be a positive, not a pessimistic, operations is this no department?
Yeah. I think a lot of that is providing visibility into all the other projects that we're working on, all the other ways that we are helping. I always say, yes, I can do this, but if I do, I'm going to have to bump something else off my list. So if you'd like to go through my list and tell me what I don't need to work on right now, then maybe we can have that conversation. But using yourself as the goalkeeper really of your time and your schedule is incredibly important. And I think the more that you do that and set expectations with people, they really respect it. I am very strict about deadlines. I always give myself a couple days of cushion and say, okay, I'll get this to you by next week, knowing I can probably do it by Monday. But because of that, I always deliver things on time. And so when you have that trust with your end customers, my AEs, my sales directors, all of them, they know I'm going to deliver on time. They can be okay when you say not right now, because they know when it does come around, I will do it and I will do it right.
Nice. So looking at people who are starting out in their career, what piece of advice would you give them?
Yeah. Volunteer for projects. Like I just said, work outside of your job description. Don't feel like you only have to know what is on your JD. Learn beyond that. Look for mentors in untraditional places. It might be someone in a different department, in a different company, but reach out. People love talking about themselves. And so as awkward as it might be to reach out and get a mentor, you can get a lot of really, really valuable information. And then I think the other piece of career advice I think is important for people in ops is you're never going to be too high up to do admin work. And I think that's important because that's what's going to make you better at your job, is remembering how the systems work and all the data dependencies. And again, having empathy for some of your admins and people who are in the weeds every day. Is you never really get away from that. And you really shouldn't. You should be willing to do any piece of work that anyone on your team is willing to do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And just to wrap it up here, so you're a strong female leader at Codat. What are your top 3 tips for people who may be struggling with confidence?
Yeah. First, realize that we all feel this way at some time or another. You're never going to know everything about everything. So everyone struggles with having some confidence. You know more than you realize. I think every time I get in a meeting where I'm a little intimidated and then I walk out, I'm like, wow, I really knew a lot. And so you can always surprise yourself. And I think the most important thing, which is something I still struggle with and remind myself, is it's okay to make mistakes. No one is ever 100% perfect. And I think we all hold ourselves to this expectation that you can't make mistakes and you can't make missteps. But mistakes are natural. Those are your biggest learning lessons. And I think it's how you deal with those mistakes or missteps that make you a better person in the end. So admitting when you're lost, admitting when you have questions, saying, I think I did this wrong. Can you help me? That's going to help you grow in your career. And it's not going to be to your detriment. It will only be to your benefit.
Fantastic. Thanks, Emily. Really appreciate the advice that you've given the community today. Anything that you would like to wrap this section up for, just for folks who might be listening today?
Yeah, I would just say always ask. The worst thing you can do is not ask. People will say no, but I've always learned just ask. Should I be included in this? Can I work on this? Can I shadow this call? Do you need my help with this? The more you ask, the more you will get.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily.
Awesome. Thanks, Beck.